The music was still playing, but it felt like someone had turned the sound down with an invisible hand. Orange lights glowed on the walls. Fake spiderwebs hung from the ceiling. A plastic pumpkin bowl sat on the table, filled with candy that smelled like sugar and fruit. People wore silly hats, shiny masks, and capes that brushed the floor, and yet nobody moved. They stood frozen, like the whole room had become a picture. Grandma Grace was standing in the middle of it all. She didn't look big. She wasn't tall like a basketball player, but the way she stood made her feel taller than anyone there. Her shoulders were straight, her chin was lifted, her hands were steady, even though her heart was shaking inside her chest. Across from her was her daughter, Talia. Talia's lips were still twisted in a smile, but her eyes had changed. They were wide now, like she had just stepped into cold water. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. A phone was held up in the air by a teenage girl in a glittery cat mask. The girl's finger was still on the screen as if she had been recording a fun moment and suddenly didn't know how to stop. Somewhere near the snack table, a small child dropped a candy bar. It hit the floor with a soft thud. Nobody bent to pick it up. Grandma Grace's voice was calm, not loud, not angry. Calm in a way that made the words heavier. "Consider your wish granted," she had said. Then, without blinking, she finished it. "I'm not your mother anymore." The sentence floated in the air like smoke. It didn't disappear, it stayed. It pressed against people's ears, it pressed against their chests. Talia's face turned red, then pale, like someone had switched her lights off and on again. "You," Talia started, but her voice cracked. She cleared her throat quickly, trying to cover it. "You can't say that. Not here." Grandma Grace looked at her for a long moment, not the kind of look that screams, the kind of look that sees everything. "I said it," Grandma Grace replied. One of the guests, a woman with a witch hat tilted on her curls, covered her mouth. Another man stepped back, bumping a chair, then grabbed it as if the chair had offended him. At the far side of the room, Mrs. Vale, the party organizer, stood stiff as a broomstick. Her smile was still on her face, but it looked painted there by mistake. This is a family moment," Mrs. Vale said, her voice thin. "Let's just keep things light, okay? It's Halloween." Her words fell flat. Because the room was not light anymore. Talia tried to laugh. It came out wrong, like a cough pretending to be a joke. "Everyone's so dramatic," she said, waving her hand as if she could brush away what she had just said. It was just words. Grandma Grace didn't argue. She didn't shout. She didn't beg anyone to understand her. She simply turned her head and looked around the room. Faces. So many faces. Some looked shocked. Some looked curious. Some looked pleased, like they were watching a show. And a few looked guilty, like they had seen this coming and had done nothing. Then Grandma Grace's eyes landed on a small boy standing by the chairs. Milo. He was holding a tiny vampire cape around his shoulders. The cape was too long, dragging on the floor behind him. His cheeks were sticky from candy and his eyes were shiny, like he was trying not to cry. Grandma Grace's chest tightened. Milo didn't say anything. He just stared at her, waiting, like he was asking a question without words. "Are we leaving?" Grandma Grace walked toward him slowly. Each step sounded loud in the quiet room. even though her shoes barely tapped the floor. Talia followed her with her eyes, angry and confused at the same time. It was the look of someone who was sure they were in control, and suddenly wasn't. "Mom," Talia called out, louder now, trying to pull the room back to her. "You're embarrassing me." Grandma Grace stopped. She didn't turn around right away. When she finally did, her face was soft, but her eyes were firm. "You embarrassed yourself," she said. The words were simple, but they struck like a slap. Talia's jaw dropped, and her pride couldn't find a place to sit. "That's not fair," Talia snapped. "You always do this. You always make me look bad." A low whisper ran through the guests like wind through dry leaves. Pastor Juno, a gentle-looking man with kind eyes, shifted forward as if he might speak, but he held back, watching carefully. Mr. Harlan, the old neighbor, frowned and shook his head slowly, like he was disappointed but not surprised. Grandma Grace reached Milo and lowered her hand. Milo didn't hesitate. He grabbed her fingers with both of his small hands, holding tight. That simple action, just a child holding his grandma, made the room feel even heavier, because it made one thing clear. Milo knew who was safe. Talia's eyes flickered toward Milo, then away again. Her lips pressed tight. For a second she looked hurt. Then her face hardened. "Oh, you're choosing him over me?" she hissed. Grandma Grace blinked once. "I'm choosing peace," she said. Talia made a sharp sound in her throat, like anger was trying to climb out. "This is my party," Talia said, pointing around the room. "My friends, my life, you don't get to ruin it." Grandma Grace nodded slowly. "You're right," she said. "I don't belong in your life the way you want it." Talia's eyes widened again. Because Grandma Grace was not begging. She was not pleading. She was accepting. And that scared Talia more than yelling ever could. Auntie Necker, standing near the doorway, took a step forward with a worried face. "Grace," she said softly, "maybe you should—" Grandma Grace lifted one hand gently, not rude, but clear. "No," she said, "not today." She looked at the table again. The candy, the cupcakes, the plastic bats taped to the wall. All the effort, all the smiling, all the pretending. Then she looked back at Talia one last time. "I came here to give you something," Grandma Grace said. Talia's face twisted. "Oh, please, keep your little gift." Grandma Grace's fingers tightened around the small gift bag she was still holding. It was plain with a simple ribbon. Nothing fancy. Her voice stayed calm. "It wasn't just a gift," she said. "It was a hope." "A hope for what?" Talia scoffed. Grandma Grace stared at her daughter for a long second. "A hope that my love still mattered to you," she answered. The room stayed silent. Even the music seemed afraid to breathe. Grandma Grace turned away, holding Milo's hand, and began to walk toward the exit. Behind her, Talia's voice rose, loud and sharp, trying to pull the power back. "Hey, fine, go! Walk out like you always do!" Grandma Grace didn't stop. But just as she reached the doorway, she heard something that made her pause. Not Talia's voice, not the guests. A small sound, a soft, broken whisper from Milo. "Grandma, did Mummy really mean it?" Grandma Grace's throat tightened so hard it hurt. She looked down at Milo's face, at his watery eyes, at his tiny fingers gripping her like she was the only steady thing left. And in that moment, Grandma Grace realized something she hadn't realized before. This night wasn't only about Talia. It was about what Talia's words could do to a child's heart. Grandma Grace opened her mouth to answer Milo, and Talia suddenly screamed from behind them, loud enough to cut the air. "Milo, come back here, now!" Milo flinched. Grandma Grace turned slowly, and still holding his hand, and she saw Talia pushing through the crowd, coming straight toward them with a face Grandma Grace had never seen before. 3 weeks earlier, Grandma Grace stood in her small kitchen with a pencil behind her ear and a list on the table. The list was not Long's. It was not fancy, but she had written each word carefully, like it mattered. Paper bats, orange lights, candy, small bag, flower, cocoa ribbon, pumpkin bowl, borrow. She stared at the last line for a moment and sighed. "Borrow," she whispered. "Yeah, I will borrow." Grandma Grace did not have extra money, not the kind that lets you buy big decorations or shiny costumes. But she had hands that could work, and a heart that could stretch. She opened the old tin where she kept her savings. Inside were folded notes and a few coins, and she counted them slowly, twice to make sure. It wasn't much, but she smiled anyway. "This will do," she said to herself. From the living room, the television played a loud cartoon. Milo was on the floor with crayons drawing a ghost with a big smile. "Grandma," he called. "Look, my ghost is friendly." Grandma Grace walked in, wiping her hands on her apron. She bent down to see. "It is very friendly," she said warmly. "I think he would share candy." Milo grinned. "I would share candy too, but only with you." Grandma Grace chuckled, then kissed the top of his head. "You are a good boy," she said. The front door opened. High heels clicked on the floor. A sweet perfume came in before the person did. Talia. She stepped inside like she was walking onto a stage. Her hair was perfect, her nails were shiny, and her phone was already in her hand, screen glowing. "Ugh," Talia said, looking around. "Why is it so hot in here?" Grandma Grace kept her smile. "Welcome home, my child." Talia didn't answer the greeting. She waved at Milo without looking at him. Then she glanced at the table. "What's that?" she asked, pointing at the list. Grandma Grace moved a little, trying to block it. "Just things I'm planning." Talia lifted one eyebrow. "Planning what?" Grandma Grace hesitated for a moment, then said softly, "The Halloween party. Mrs. Vale invited everyone. You said you wanted to go." Talia's mouth curled like she had tasted something sour. "I said I wanted to go," Talia corrected. "I didn't say you needed to make it a whole project." Grandma Grace's smile stayed, but it thinned around the edges. I just thought it would be nice." Talia tossed her purse on a chair. "What's nice is not embarrassing me. Don't do too much, okay?" Milo looked up from the floor. His crayon stopped moving. Grandma Grace's chest tightened, but she nodded. "Of course," she said. "I will keep it simple." Talia walked to the mirror near the hallway and checked her face. She angled her phone and took a quick selfie. Then she said, like it was a small thing, "And don't wear that old brown coat to the party. It makes you look tired." Grandma Grace blinked. "It keeps me warm," she replied carefully. Talia sighed loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Warm is not the point," she said. "Just wear something else." She walked away, her heels tapping, and disappeared into her room. Milo stared at the hallway, then looked at Grandma Grace. "Oh, Grandma," he said quietly, "why does Mummy talk like that?" Grandma Grace forced a gentle smile. She sat on the couch beside him. "Sometimes people forget their manners when they are stressed," she said. Milo frowned. "Is Mommy stressed?" Grandma Grace paused, then nodded. "Maybe." But inside she wasn't sure. Talia didn't sound stressed. Talia sounded like she was pulling something tight, short, like a rope. That night, after Milo fell asleep, Grandma Grace washed dishes in silence. Her thoughts moved like slow water. Talia had not always been like this. When Talia was little, she used to run into Grandma Grace's arms like it was the safest place on earth. She used to ask for stories before bed and fall asleep holding Grandma Grace's hand. Grandma Grace remembered those days like old photos in a box, still real, still painful to touch. The next morning, Grandma Grace visited Mr. Harlan next door. He was sitting on his porch reading the newspaper with his glasses low on his nose. "Good morning, Mr. Harlan," she said. He folded the paper and smiled. "Good morning, Grace. You look busy." Grandma Grace gave a small laugh. "I am preparing for the Halloween party." Mr. Harlan's eyebrows lifted. "Ah, that big one at the community hall?" "Yes," Grandma Grace replied. "My daughter wants it to be perfect." Mr. Harlan studied her face. "And what do you want?" Grandma Grace opened her mouth, then closed it. The truth sat heavy. What did she want? She wanted Talia to look at her like a mother again. She wanted to feel needed, not tolerated. She wanted a simple thank you that didn't sound forced. But she didn't say those things. She only said, "I want peace." Mr. Harlan nodded slowly, like he understood much more than she had spoken. "Peace is good," he said, "but peace should not mean you disappear." Grandma Grace's eyes dropped. "I don't want trouble." Mr. Harlan leaned forward slightly. "Sometimes trouble comes when you stay quiet too long." Grandma Grace didn't answer. She just smiled politely and said goodbye. On her way home, she stopped by a small shop and bought orange paper and a tiny bag of candy. She handed over her money with careful fingers, as if the notes might fly away. Back at home, she began cutting paper bats. She folded, snipped, opened, and shaped them, one after another. Milo sat beside her, trying to copy. His bat looked more like a squashed butterfly. He giggled anyway. "Mine is special," Milo said. But Grandma Grace laughed softly. "Yes, it is." For a while she felt calm again. Then Talia came out of her room, dressed in a fresh outfit, phone in hand. "Mum," she said, "I need you to do something." Grandma Grace looked up quickly. "Yes, my child." Talia didn't look at the bats. She didn't look at Milo. She looked at her phone. "I want a new costume," she said. "A really good one, not the cheap kind." Grandma Grace's stomach sank. "A new costume?" she repeated carefully. "But you already have one from last year." Talia rolled her eyes. "Last year's is ugly. Everyone's going to look amazing. I can't show up in something old." Grandma Grace swallowed. "I don't have extra money right now." Talia's eyes snapped up. So what are you saving for? Grandma Grace felt Milo's small hand touch her arm like he sensed danger. I'm saving for food, Grandma Grace said quietly. And bills, Talia scoffed. Always bills, always your old worries. Grandma Grace's face stayed calm, but inside, her heart gave a painful thump. Talia leaned closer, voice low but sharp. Don't ruin this for me, Talia said. This party matters. People matter. How I look matters. Grandma Grace nodded slowly. I understand. But she did not understand. Not really. Because she had never loved a costume more than a person. That afternoon when Talia left the house again, Grandma Grace sat alone at the table. The paper bats lay there like little shadows. Her list was still on the table too. Grandma Grace looked at the word ribbon and thought about hope. Not big hope, just small hope. The kind that says maybe this year will be kinder. She picked up her pencil. She added one more line to the list. Small gift for Talia. Her hand shook a little as she wrote it, because deep inside she could feel it. The party was coming, and something was already wrong, like a crack in glass that you can't stop once it starts. Grandma Grace made the gift late at night, when the house was quiet and even the clocks seemed to tick softer. Milo had fallen asleep with his vampire cape still on, one arm stretched across his pillow like he was guarding treasure. Talia's bedroom door was closed and the light under it was gone. Grandma Grace sat at the table with a small box of old things, not junk, memories. There was a faded photo of Talia as a little girl, missing one front tooth and smiling like the sun. There was a tiny ribbon from a school prize. But there was a small paper card Talia had once made with messy letters that said, I love you, Mama. Grandma Grace traced the card with her finger. Her eyes watered. She used to write this without thinking, Grandma Grace whispered. She didn't want to give Talia something expensive. She wanted to give something real. So she chose carefully. She picked a simple bracelet she had worn for years. Nothing shiny, nothing loud, just small beads with one little charm shaped like a heart. It wasn't worth much money, but it had been with her through hard days and happy days. She had worn it when Talia was born. She had worn it when Talia learned to walk. She had worn it when Talia first went to school. Grandma Grace took it off and held it in her palm. Maybe this will remind her, she said softly. She wrapped it in tissue paper and placed it in the small gift bag and tied the plain ribbon around the handle. Then she added a short note, written slowly so her hands wouldn't shake. I'm proud of you. I love you. No matter what. She read the note twice. Then she folded it and placed it inside. For a moment she felt calm. But the next morning, calm didn't last long. Talia came into the kitchen with her phone in one hand and a cup in the other. She didn't say good morning. She didn't ask how Grandma Grace slept. Her eyes went straight to the counter where the gift bag sat. What's that? Talia asked. Grandma Grace's shoulders lifted slightly. A small gift for you? For the party. Talia stared at it like it was something strange that had crawled into the house. A gift, she repeated. Why? Grandma Grace blinked. Because it's Halloween. And you're my daughter. Talia gave a short laugh. You're acting like it's my birthday. It's not about the date, Grandma Grace said gently. It's about kindness. Talia picked up the bag with 2 fingers. like she didn't want it touching her too much. She shook it lightly, listening. "What is it?" she asked. "Something from my heart," Grandma Grace answered. Talia's face tightened. "From your heart," she mocked quietly, then dropped the bag back onto the counter. "Just don't do anything weird at the party, okay?" Grandma Grace swallowed. "Weird? You know," Talia said, waving her hand. "Don't make speeches, don't cry, don't make it about you." Grandma Grace's mouth went dry. "I was not planning to make it about me," she said. Talia leaned closer, her voice sweet on the outside but sharp on the inside. "Ah, good," Talia said, "because I want everyone to have fun, and I don't want any sad stories." Milo walked in then, rubbing his eyes. "Are we going soon?" Milo asked. "Is today the party day?" "Soon," Grandma Grace said quickly, smiling at him. "Not today, but soon." Milo nodded, then looked up at Talia. "Mummy," he said, "what are you going to wear?" Talia's face changed like a switch flipped. She smiled wide. "Amazing," she said. "I'm going to look amazing." Milo giggled. "Grandma will look amazing too." Talia's smile froze for a second. Then she patted Milo's head without looking at him. "Sure," she said flatly. Grandma Grace felt something pinch in her chest, but she kept her smile. Later that afternoon, Grandma Grace walked with Milo to the community hall to help set up. Milo bounced beside her, pretending to be a bat, flapping his arms. Inside the hall, orange lights were already strung along the walls. Mrs. Vale, the organizer, stood with a clipboard, pointing and giving orders. "More cobwebs on that corner," she called. "And the pumpkin table needs to look fuller." When Mrs. Vale saw Grandma Grace, she clapped her hands. "Grace," she said, "perfect timing. We need someone steady, someone who won't panic." Grandma Grace smiled politely. "I can help." Mrs. Vale leaned in and spoke in a lower voice. "And please, no family drama tonight. Last year someone shouted over cupcakes. I still haven't recovered." Grandma Grace's smile weakened. "There will be no drama from me." Milo tugged Grandma Grace's sleeve. "Grandma, can I help?" Mrs. Vale looked down at Milo and softened a little. "You can put the candy on the table," she said. But no stealing," Milo gasped. "I would never." Grandma Grace laughed softly. As they worked, a few people came in and greeted Grandma Grace with warm smiles. Mr. Harlan walked in slowly with a simple skeleton mask in his hand. "Well, look at you," he said, "working hard again." Grandma Grace nodded. "Just helping." Mr. Harlan glanced around, then lowered his voice. "How is your daughter?" Grandma Grace hesitated. "Busy." Mr. Harlan's eyes narrowed gently, like he could see through the one word. "Busy doesn't always mean happy," he said. Grandma Grace didn't answer. She just smoothed a tablecloth with both hands until it lay flat. Then Auntie Necker arrived, arms full of plastic cups and napkins, talking before she even stepped fully inside. "I brought the good ones," she announced, "not the cheap, flimsy kind." People like quality." She hugged Grandma Grace tightly. "My sister," she said loudly. "You look tired. Are you eating well?" Grandma Grace smiled, embarrassed. "I'm fine." Auntie Necker turned to Milo and pinched his cheek. "This child is growing too fast." Milo leaned away and hid behind Grandma Grace's skirt, shy. Auntie Necker laughed. "He is a quiet one, not like his mother. His mother is fire." Grandma Grace's hands paused. Fire. Yes, Talia was fire. But fire could warm you. Or burn you. Grandma Grace continued working, placing bats on the wall and straightening the orange lights. She moved carefully like she was trying to keep everything balanced. Then, while she adjusted a decoration near the snack table, she heard two women whispering nearby. "Is that her?" one whispered. "Yes," the other whispered back. "That's the mother." "The mother looks humble," the first said, like humble was a problem. The second woman giggled. "Her daughter is so classy though, so modern. People say she had a hard childhood." Grandma Grace's fingers went still. Hard childhood. Her throat tightened. She wanted to turn around and say, "I gave her everything I had," but she didn't. Instead, she took a slow breath and kept fixing the decorations, pretending she didn't hear a thing. When they finally finished setting up, Milo ran to the candy table and stared at it like it was a mountain of treasure. "Grandma," he said, "can I have just one?" Grandma Grace smiled. "One," she agreed. Milo picked a small candy, unwrapped it carefully, and ate it with a happy sigh. Grandma Grace watched him and felt her heart soften. Then she looked at her plain gift bag sitting in her own hands. She squeezed the handle gently like she was holding something fragile. A hope. A small, stubborn hope. And as she walked home with Milo, she told herself one thing again and again. Tonight will be fine. Tonight will be peaceful. But deep inside, a quiet fear whispered back, "What if it won't?" By the time the sun went down, the community hall looked like a different world. Orange lights blinked softly along the walls. Paper bats stretched their wings over the doorways. Fake spiderwebs clung to corners like tiny pale clouds. A big pumpkin bowl sat in the middle of the candy table like it was the king of sweets. Grandma Grace arrived early with Milo. Milo was wearing his little vampire cape again. He was so excited that he kept spinning, making the cape fly out behind him like a flag. "Slow down," Grandma Grace said with a small laugh. "You'll make yourself dizzy." "I'm not dizzy," Milo said, wobbling a little. Then he giggled. Grandma Grace fixed the collar of his cape and smoothed his hair. She wore a simple dark dress and her clean brown coat. She had tried to choose her best, even if it wasn't fancy. As they stepped inside, Mrs. Vale spotted them and walked over fast, clipboard in hand. "Grace," she said, smiling too hard. "Thank you for coming early. Everything looks good. Please, please. Let's keep tonight happy." Grandma Grace nodded. "It will be happy." Mrs. Vale looked relieved, like she had been holding her breath. The hall began to fill. A group of teens came in wearing bright masks and glitter. Kemi was among them, holding her phone up high already. Look at the lights," Kemi said, filming. "This is going to be the best party." Milo waved at her, but Kemi barely noticed. Her eyes were on her screen. Grandma Grace watched the people arrive and tried to feel joy. She really did. She told herself that tonight would be simple. Smiles, candy, and music. Then the doors opened again. Talia walked in. She didn't just enter. She arrived. Her costume was shiny and bold, with a cape that looked expensive. Her hair was perfect. Her face was bright with makeup that caught the light. She looked like someone who wanted all eyes on her. And she got what she wanted. People turned. Some gasped. "Wow!" Someone said, "Talia, you look amazing." Talia smiled like she had been waiting for it all day. She waved as if she were greeting fans. Grandma Grace felt a tiny sting in her chest. Not because Talia looked nice. She was happy her daughter looked happy. But because Talia didn't even look at her at first. Talia walked right past Grandma Grace, talking to a group of guests. "Of course I had to go big this year," Talia said brightly. "Halloween is all about style." Then she noticed Grandma Grace standing with Milo. Her smile didn't disappear, but it changed. It became smaller and tighter. "Mum," Talia said, her voice sweet but thin. Her eyes moved over Grandma's coat. "You wore it." Grandma Grace blinked. "It's warm." Talia's lips pressed together. She turned to the guests quickly. "This is my mum," she said, like she was introducing a distant aunt. "And this is Milo." Milo smiled. "Hi." A few people waved back. Some smiled politely. Some looked away fast. Grandma Grace held her small gift bag close to her side. She had not given it yet. She wanted the right moment. A quiet moment. Talia leaned closer and spoke low so others wouldn't hear. "Just stay over there," Talia whispered, nodding toward the side seats. "Let me handle things." Grandma Grace's face stayed calm. "I'm not here to handle things. I'm here to support you." Talia gave a quick smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Good," she said. "Support quietly." Then she walked away again. Milo looked up at Grandma Grace. "Grandma," he asked softly, "did I do something wrong?" Grandma Grace's heart squeezed. "No," she said quickly, bending down to his level. "No, my sweet boy, you did nothing wrong." "Then why is Mommy—" Milo hesitated, searching for a word. "Oh, why is Mommy sharp?" Grandma Grace almost smiled at the way he said it. Sharp. Yes, that was it. "She is excited," Grandma Grace said gently. "Sometimes excitement makes people forget to be gentle." Milo nodded slowly, but his eyes still looked worried. The music started louder, and people moved toward the middle to dance. The smell of cupcakes and warm snacks filled the air. Kids ran around in costumes, laughing. Grandma Grace tried to relax. She helped Milo get a drink. She wiped frosting off his chin. She clapped along when Mrs. Vale announced the first game. But Talia kept pulling attention like she was holding a rope tied to the whole room. When someone praised Grandma's decorations, Talia jumped in quickly. "Yes, I told her exactly what to do," Talia said, smiling. "I have a good eye." When someone greeted Grandma kindly, Talia stepped between them and started talking louder. When Grandma Grace tried to join a conversation, Talia's eyes would flick toward her with a warning look as if to say, "Don't." Then Pastor Juno arrived. He didn't wear a big costume, just a simple mask he held in his hand. He walked in with a calm smile and warm eyes. "Grace," he said, taking her hand gently, "it is good to see you." Grandma Grace smiled for real this time. "It is good to see you too." Pastor Juno looked at Milo and nodded. "And hello to you, young man." Milo stood straighter. "Hello?" Pastor Juno's eyes returned to Grandma Grace. "You have done so much for your family," he said softly. "I hope you know you are valued." The words were kind, simple, honest. Grandma Grace's eyes watered. "Thank you," she whispered. But when Grandma Grace glanced toward Talia, she saw it. Talia was watching. Her smile was still on her face for the guests near her, but her eyes were not smiling at all. They were hard, like glass. Talia walked over quickly, laughing loudly. "Pastor," she said, putting herself right in the space between him and Grandma Grace. "I'm so glad you came." Pastor Juno nodded politely. "Of course. It's a community event," Talia beamed. "Right. And everything looks so good. People are loving it." Grandma Grace stepped back half a step without meaning to. She felt herself being moved out of the picture. Pastor Juno looked from Talia to Grandma Grace, then back again. His face stayed gentle, but his eyes held a quiet understanding. Talia continued smiling, talking fast, keeping the attention on herself like it was air she needed to breathe. Grandma Grace watched her daughter and felt something heavy settle inside her. Not anger, not hate, a tired sadness, because she could see it clearly now. The party was not just about fun, it was about control. And Talia wanted Grandma Grace small. Grandma Grace looked down at the gift bag in her hand and tightened her grip. She didn't want to fight. She didn't want to ruin anything. She only wanted one soft moment with her daughter. One moment where Talia could look at her and remember love. The music played. People laughed again. The games continued. But for Grandma Grace, the hall didn't feel bright anymore. It felt like a room full of masks, some made of plastic and some made of pride. The party got louder as the night went on. Kids ran from table to table, their costumes swishing and bouncing. Someone turned the music up. People laughed too hard, like they were trying to prove nothing was wrong in their own lives. Grandma Grace stayed near the side seats with Milo. She kept her smile gentle. She clapped when the children won small prizes. She nodded when guests greeted her. But inside she felt like she was walking on thin glass. Talia moved through the hall like a queen. Every time someone praised the decorations, she accepted it. Every time someone asked who made the cupcakes, she answered quickly, "We did." As if Grandma Grace's hands were not the ones that mixed the batter. Grandma Grace told herself to be calm. "Tonight is about peace," she repeated in her mind. Then Mrs. Vale tapped a spoon against a cup. "Everyone," she called. "Attention. Please!" The music lowered, the crowd gathered. People held drinks and candy bags. A few phones rose into the air. Mrs. Vale smiled brightly. "We're going to have a short moment before the next game," she said. "A few words from our lovely guests." Grandma Grace felt her stomach tighten. A few words. That meant one thing. A speech. Mrs. Vale turned her head toward Talia. "Talia," she said, "you wanted to say something, right?" Talia stepped forward like she had been waiting for this all night. She smoothed her cape and turned her face toward the crowd. The lights caught her costume. The room leaned in. "Yes," Talia said, smiling wide. "I just want to thank everyone for coming." People clapped. Grandma Grace clapped too, small and polite. Milo clapped with all his strength, looking proud. Talia continued, her voice sweet and smooth. "Tonight is special," she said, "because it shows how far I've come, how much I've grown." More claps, more smiles. Grandma Grace tried to relax. Then Talia's eyes shifted. They landed on Grandma Grace. Not warmly, not lovingly, like a spotlight that felt too hot. "And of course," Talia said, "I should thank my mother." The room turned toward Grandma Grace. Grandma Grace's heart jumped. She sat straighter. She held the little gift bag tighter in her lap. Maybe this is it, she thought. Maybe she will be kind. Talia lifted one hand like she was presenting Grandma Grace to the room. My mum, Talia said, is very traditional. A few people chuckled softly, unsure. She believes in old things, Talia went on. Hard rules, hard lessons. Grandma Grace's smile froze. Talia's voice stayed sweet, but her words began to sting. Growing up, Talia said, I didn't always get what I wanted. I didn't always get what other kids had. Grandma Grace's throat went tight. She had worked 2 jobs. She had skipped meals. She had sewn clothes when she couldn't buy them. She had done everything she could. Talia looked around, acting like she was being brave. And sometimes, Talia said, I feel like my whole life started wrong. The crowd quieted. Some faces shifted. Pastor Juno's eyes narrowed slightly, like he was listening carefully. Grandma Grace felt the room change. This wasn't a happy speech anymore. Talia's lips curved into a small smile like she enjoyed the tension. And honestly, Talia said, shrugging, sometimes I think, I wish I were never born. The silence hit fast, not the soft silence of listening, the hard silence of shock. A child stopped chewing. A woman near the wall covered her mouth. Someone's phone trembled, still recording. Milo's head snapped toward his mother. His eyes widened. His small hands tightened around his candy bag. Grandma Grace didn't move at first. It was like the words had pushed her into a deep place inside herself, a place where old memories lived. She saw Talia as a baby, crying in her arms. She saw her own hands, tired and cracked, washing tiny clothes. She saw herself praying late at night, asking only for her child to be safe. And now her child stood under orange lights, saying she wished she had never existed. Grandma Grace rose slowly. The chair legs scraped softly against the floor. She didn't rush. She didn't shake. She stood tall, not because she felt powerful, but because she refused to collapse. Talia looked at her, still smiling at first, like Grandma Grace would do what she always did, swallow the pain and pretend it didn't hurt. But Grandma Grace's face was different now, calm, firm, clear. Her voice carried across the room without needing to shout. Consider your wish granted, Grandma Grace said. Talia's smile twitched. Grandma Grace continued, each word steady. I'm not your mother anymore. The air seemed to stop. Even the blinking lights felt slower. Talia's face changed. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened like she wanted to laugh, but no laugh came. What? Talia said. A sharp sound, like her voice had tripped. Grandma Grace didn't repeat herself. She didn't add extra drama. She simply stood there, looking at her daughter the way a judge looks at a final choice. People stared at Grandma Grace like they had never seen her before. Some looked offended. Some looked amazed. Some looked scared. Mr. Harlan took a slow breath, as if he had been holding it for years. Pastor Juno lowered his mask in his hand and watched quietly, his face serious. Mrs. Vale looked like she wanted to disappear into the wall. Talia found her voice again, but it came out messy. You can't say that, she snapped. Not here, not in front of people. Grandma Grace's eyes stayed on her. You chose in front of people when you spoke, Grandma Grace replied. That made the room even quieter. Milo stood up from his chair without thinking. He moved closer to Grandma Grace, small steps like he was drawn to her safety. Talia noticed Milo and pointed at him. "Don't act like you're some hero," Talia said, trying to pull her pride back together. "You always do this. You always try to make me look bad." Grandma Grace's voice stayed soft, but it did not bend. "You did not need my help to look bad," she said. The words were simple, but they hit hard. Talia's cheeks flushed. Her eyes shone with anger. For a second, Grandma Grace thought Talia might cry, but Talia didn't cry. She lifted her chin, trying to stand taller than Grandma Grace. Then Grandma Grace looked around the room one time, seeing the phones, the stares, the frozen smiles, and she understood something important. Tonight was not only about her and Talia. Tonight was about what kind of love was allowed to live in front of Milo. Grandma Grace reached down and held Milo's hand. Milo gripped her fingers tight. Grandma Grace turned slightly toward the exit. No rushing and no running, just a calm step away from the center of the room. And behind her, the party stayed frozen, because nobody knew what to do when a quiet woman finally stopped accepting pain. Grandma Grace walked toward the exit with Milo's hand in hers, and the silence followed them like a shadow. At first, nobody spoke, not because they didn't have words, because they had too many words, and they didn't know which ones were safe. Milo's small fingers squeezed Grandma Grace's hand, so tight it almost hurt. His candy bag swung from his other hand, tapping his knee with each step. Grandma Grace could feel his fear through his grip. She wanted to hurry. She wanted to scoop him up and run out of the hall and lock the door behind them. But she didn't. She kept her steps slow and steady, calm on purpose, because if she ran, it would look like she was guilty, and she was not guilty. She reached the doorway and stopped, turning just enough to look back. Talia stood in the middle of the room like someone had pushed her off a stage. Her mouth was open, but her face was stuck between anger and shock, like she couldn't decide which one to wear. A few guests stared at the floor. Others stared at Grandma Grace. Some stared at Talia like they were seeing her for the first time. Kemi, the teen with the phone, lowered her hand slowly. The screen was still glowing, but her eyes were no longer excited. She looked uncomfortable, like she had accidentally walked into a room where adults were saying things they should have said years ago. Mrs. Vale finally moved. She forced a laugh, a thin sound that didn't match her face. "Okay," she said, clapping too fast. "Okay? Everyone, let's breathe. It's a misunderstanding. Let's keep the night fun." Nobody laughed with her. Her clap stopped. She swallowed hard and glanced around as if the walls could give her instructions. Talia suddenly stepped forward, her voice rising. "Everyone's acting like I did something terrible," she said, waving her hands. "It was just words. People say things all the time." Grandma Grace didn't reply. She watched, because she wanted the room to hear Talia's own choices. Talia pointed at Grandma Grace. "She always does this," Talia snapped. "She makes everything heavy. She ruins moments. She wants everyone to pity her." A couple of guests shifted, not sure what to do. One woman nodded politely at Talia, like she didn't want trouble. Another woman frowned, like she didn't like what she was hearing. Milo flinched at his mother's loud voice and stepped closer to Grandma Grace's side. Grandma Grace bent her head slightly toward Milo, her voice low and warm. Look at me, she whispered. Milo looked up, his eyes wet. You are safe, Grandma Grace said. I'm here. Milo nodded once, small and shaky. Behind them, Pastor Juno moved forward. He didn't rush. He didn't try to take over. He simply stepped into the space where truth could stand. Talia, Pastor Juno said gently, words are not just words when they cut. Talia snapped her head toward him. This is not your business. Pastor Juno's voice stayed calm. When you hurt someone in a room full of people, it becomes everyone's business. A soft murmur went through the crowd. Talia's chest rose and fell fast. She looked around, searching for allies. Fine, she said. You all want to judge me. Judge her too. She said she's not my mother anymore. Who says that? Mr. Harlan spoke then, his voice deep and steady. Someone who has been pushed too far, he said. People turned toward him. Mr. Harlan looked at Grandma Grace, then back at Talia. I've lived next door for a long time, he said. I've heard how you speak to her. I've seen her carry the weight alone. Tonight you didn't get a reaction you could control. That's why you're upset. Talia's face tightened. You don't know anything. Mr. Harlan nodded once. I know enough. Talia's eyes darted around again. She saw Kemi. She saw phones. She saw faces that were no longer smiling for her. And that's when her voice changed. It became sweeter. It became softer. It became the voice she used when she wanted people on her side. Guys, Talia said, pressing one hand to her chest. You don't understand. My mum has always been intense. She's always made me feel like I owe her my whole life. Grandma Grace's stomach twisted. She had expected anger, but this was something else. This was Talia trying to rewrite the story in front of everyone. Pastor Juno didn't argue loudly. He just asked one question. Talia, he said, did your mother shame you tonight? Or did you shame her? Talia blinked fast. For a second, she looked like she didn't know what to say. Then she scoffed. She's doing it again. She's making me look like a monster. Grandma Grace finally spoke. Not to fight, not to win, to be clear. I will not call you a monster, Grandma Grace said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. You are my child. I know your good parts. But I will not accept cruelty from you anymore. The room stayed silent again. Talia's face twisted as if Grandma Grace had stolen the air. You're so dramatic, Talia hissed. You want everyone to clap for you because you're the poor mother. Grandma Grace shook her head slowly. I don't want claps, she said. I want respect. Talia laughed sharply. Respect? From me? For what? For giving birth to me and then controlling everything? Milo made a small sound like he was trying not to cry. Grandma Grace squeezed his hand gently. Then she did something the guests did not expect. She lifted the small gift bag, plain ribbon, simple paper, nothing fancy. I brought you a gift, Grandma Grace said. Talia's eyes flashed. I don't want it. Grandma Grace nodded. That's your choice. She didn't throw it. She didn't beg Talia to take it. She simply opened the bag and pulled out the folded note. Her fingers trembled a little now, not from fear, but from old pain. She looked down at the note, then back up at Talia. I wrote this last night, Grandma Grace said. Before the party, before you said what you said. Talia's jaw tightened. Stop. You're trying to make everyone feel sorry for you. Grandma Grace didn't look at the guests. She looked only at her daughter. "I won't read it to the room," Grandma Grace said. "I'll read one line for you." Talia scoffed, but her eyes flickered. She was listening even when she pretended not to. Grandma Grace unfolded the note carefully. Her voice softened. "I'm proud of you," she read. "I love you, no matter what." The words hung in the air like a warm blanket that didn't fit the cold room. For a moment, just a moment, Talia's face cracked. Her eyes shone. She swallowed hard, and then her pride slammed the crack shut. "Fake," Talia snapped. "You don't love me. You love controlling me. You love looking like a saint." Grandma Grace folded the note again slowly. "No," she said. "I loved you even when you didn't deserve it. That's what mothers do." Talia's breath hitched. Her cheeks burned. Then she looked at Milo, and her voice became sharp again. "Milo," she snapped. "Come here. Now." Milo's body stiffened. He didn't move. His fingers tightened around Grandma Grace's hand. Talia stepped forward fast, pushing through the guests. Her face was not the party face anymore. It was the private face, the one Grandma Grace knew too well. "Milo!" Talia shouted again. "Hada!" Milo flinched and looked up at Grandma Grace like he was asking permission to breathe. Grandma Grace stepped slightly in front of him, still holding his hand. She didn't raise her voice, but her words were firm enough to stop a room. "Don't speak to him like that," Grandma Grace said. Talia stopped short, eyes blazing. "You're standing in my way," Talia hissed. Grandma Grace didn't back up. "I'm standing for him," she replied. And as Talia lifted her hand, not to hit, but to grab Milo's arm and yank him close, Pastor Juno moved quickly to the side, and Mr. Harlan stepped forward too, because the room could feel it. This wasn't just a family argument anymore. This was about a child. And Grandma Grace's grip on Milo tightened as she realized the next few seconds could change everything. Talia's hand stopped in the air, halfway between her anger and Milo's arm. Pastor Juno stepped in front of the crowd, not blocking Talia like a wall, but like a calm door that would not open for bad behavior. "Talia," he said firmly, "no pulling, no shouting, not in front of a child." Mr. Harlan stood beside him, shoulders squared. A few other adults moved closer too, quietly, like they were forming a circle of safety without making a show. Talia looked around and realized something awful. The room was not on her side. Not tonight. Her eyes flashed. "So now everyone is against me?" Grandma Grace didn't let go of Milo's hand. She spoke with steady calm. "No," she said. "They are against cruelty." Talia's chest rose fast. Her mouth opened, ready to throw more sharp words like stones. But Milo suddenly spoke. His voice was small, but it cut through the air like a bell. "Mommy," Milo whispered, "why do you hate Grandma?" The word hate made the room go still again. Talia's face changed, and for 1 second, her anger looked like fear. "I don't hate her," Talia said quickly. Milo blinked hard, trying not to cry. "Then why do you make her sad?" Talia stared at him, and it was like she didn't know what to do with a child's simple truth. Mrs. Vale swallowed and whispered, "Oh my." Kemi's phone lowered completely. She hugged it to her chest like it suddenly felt heavy. Grandma Grace knelt beside Milo so her face was level with his. Look at me, she said softly. Milo looked up, shaking. Grandma Grace wiped the corner of his cheek with her thumb. You did the right thing by speaking, she told him. You are not in trouble. Milo nodded, breathing a little easier. Talia's eyes flicked between them, and her voice came out tight. You're turning him against me, she said. Grandma Grace stood slowly again, still calm. I am not turning him, she replied. He is seeing. That made Talia flinch, like she'd been slapped by the truth. Pastor Juno spoke again, his voice gentle but serious. Talia, he said, you can be upset, but you can't hurt people to feel powerful. Not your mother, not your child. Talia scoffed, but it sounded weak now. This is my life, she snapped. My party, my rules. Mr. Harlan shook his head. Not when it involves a child's safety and a mother's dignity. Talia's jaw tightened. Then her eyes fell on the gift bag still in Grandma Grace's hand. You and your little bag, Talia said bitterly. Always trying to look good. Grandma Grace held the bag out, only a little, not pushing it on her. This was never about looking good, Grandma Grace said. It was about love. Talia laughed once, sharp and empty. Love? She said. You don't understand me at all. Grandma Grace nodded slowly. Maybe I don't understand everything, but I understand enough to know this. I will not let you use me as a punching bag for your pride. Some guests inhaled. The words were simple, but the message was clear. Grandma Grace took a breath, then spoke to the whole room, not to embarrass Talia, but to end the game. I won't argue here, she said. I won't shout, I won't beg. I will only set my boundary. She looked at Talia. You said you wish you were never born, Grandma Grace continued. That wasn't a joke to me. That was you throwing my whole life away in front of strangers. Talia opened her mouth, but Grandma Grace lifted one hand gently. No, Grandma Grace said. Let me finish. The room stayed silent. Grandma Grace's voice softened and her eyes shone. I raised you with love, she said. Not perfect love, human love. Tired love, working love, but love all the same. Talia's face flickered again, like a memory tried to fight through her pride. Grandma Grace swallowed. Tonight, I said I'm not your mother anymore, she said. I did not say it because I hate you. I said it because I will not be treated like dirt and still be called mother like it means nothing. Talia's lips trembled. She looked away fast. Grandma Grace turned to Pastor Juno and Mr. Harlan. Please, she said. Yeah. Someone make sure Milo's things are gathered. Pastor Juno nodded at once. I will. Mr. Harlan pointed gently toward a chair. Sit a moment, Milo. We'll get your bag. Milo hesitated, then hugged Grandma Grace's waist quickly. I don't want you to go, he whispered. Grandma Grace held him for a heartbeat, then pulled back and smiled softly. I'm not leaving you, she promised. I'm leaving the yelling. Milo nodded slowly. Talia watched them, and something in her eyes looked lost. Grandma Grace faced her one last time. I will not chase you, Grandma Grace said. If you want a mother, you will come with respect. If you don't, I will still pray for you. From a distance. Talia's throat bobbed as she swallowed. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered, It's so quiet it barely reached the front row of guests. You really mean it? Grandma Grace nodded. Yes. Talia's shoulders dropped a little, like her ego finally ran out of strength. Her voice cracked, small and angry and sad at the same time. I didn't think you'd ever stop, she admitted. Grandma Grace answered gently. Neither did I. Pastor Juno returned with Milo's small bag and cape. Mr. Harlan held the door open. Grandma Grace took Milo's hand again. Before she stepped out, she looked back at the party, at the orange lights, the masks, the frozen cupcakes. Then she looked at Talia. Good night, Grandma Grace said. Not sweet, not cruel, just final. Grandma Grace and Milo walked out into the cool night air. The sounds of the party stayed behind the closed door, muffled and far away. Outside, and Milo breathed in and out like he had been holding his breath for hours. Grandma, he said quietly, are you okay? Grandma Grace looked up at the dark sky and the streetlights shining like small stars. She squeezed Milo's hand. I will be, she said, because tonight I chose dignity. And they kept walking, together. If you enjoyed this story and want more powerful family stories like this, type next story and tell me what theme you want, revenge, forgiveness, or a shocking twist.